We're going to continue to focus on autism. Specifically, we're going to focus on socialization. So, individuals that have autism and socialization. I am so excited about the guests that I have tonight. I have Jamiel Owens. He is the creator of The Awesome Show. He's the creator and host of The Awesome Show and founder of the nonprofit Awesomeness Inc. And he spells it AUSOME. Awesome. And I love that he spells it that way. So I'm going to bring Jamil in and we're going to get started. Hello, welcome, Jamil.
Going on? What's going on?
I'm so happy. So I already told you this. I'm so happy I was able to have you come on because we're focusing because last week we focused on autism and we focused on meltdowns and I was like, I want to continue with autism. I'm just like, well, what else should? Because that was the first thing that popped in my head was meltdowns, and I'm just like, what else? And I reached out to our friend Thomasina. She said, oh, do interaction, socialization. So I was like, great. You were right
Yep.
in my mind. I was like, I gotta reach out to. I was like, I hope he's not busy because I really want him to come on. So thank you so much.
I
So
appreciate
just first and foremost, like I know you have your son has autism. So I want to know, like, when did you first discover that your son had autism, and like what were some of the signs that you had where it was like, okay, I think something else is going on here. I think I may need to get my son evaluated.
Okay. So first and foremost, before anything, I want to say thank you for having me here. This is a blessing in order to be here. Second thing, today is would have been my mother's birthday. She passed away in 2014 of cancer. So this show is dedicated to her, and why I say that is because she taught me so much in the 3 months that I had left with her. So anybody out there that's dealing with a loved one or who has lost a loved one due to cancer, my prayers and thoughts are with you, and I hope they are together in heaven, dancing and having a good time and just being whole, without any sickness. So I just wanted to say that. So let's
Right.
get into Shane's diagnosis. My son Shane, who is 13 right now, eighth grader, doing amazing, honor roll student since the third grade. I found out, well, his diagnosis was at the age of 3. And what happened was it was a very tough time transition for me as a father, as a man trying to figure out what's going on with my son. I speak candidly about this. I wanted that restart button. I wanted to push, just push, get a start over, because I'm like, why, guy? Why are you doing this to me? Why is my son like this? This is not fair to me. It was all I. But I wasn't focusing on the most important part, which was my family and, of course, my awesome son. So what I started noticing was a lot of stimming, which is the one of these self-regulation tactics that our awesome children use. And stemming doesn't come all the time with going back and forth in your emotions like my son was. Stemming can be actually just staring, like just blank stare out in space. Stemming can also be this, which my son is actually starting to do now. And also, too, one thing that he's actually doing is, and I find it very inspirational, is he's holding my hand in public now. And some people might be like, oh, well, you should stop that because he's a male. And I'm like, no, because that's a connection that me and my son is having. And
Mhm.
he's using me as a vessel for his stemming. So what better feeling for a father to feel than actually have that take place? But back to it, my son was stemming on a linear object with his trains because he loves trains. At that time, it was Thomas the Train. And I remember one particular day, he was just going back and forth, back and forth. And I described it because I wrote about it in the article. It felt like he was possessed. And I got scared at the man. At that point in time, I was scared because I couldn't help my son. I didn't know what was going on, and there was nobody there to help me. So, just like any coward would do when they don't understand anything about anybody, whether it be a person with special needs or just a person in general, I actually pushed him And I say this with enough courage and enough strength to try to empower someone else. I pushed him because I was scared. And when I pushed him, he cried and he looked at me. And then he got right back up and he literally wiped his eyes and he went back to it. At that point in time, I ran to a part of the room and I started crying because I'm like, oh my God, how can I be this cruel to my son and push him on something that I don't understand, you know?
Mhm.
So it was a very turbulent time, but I tell that story, that intricate story, because I want people to be okay with admitting their wrongs and admitting that they don't know. But the most important part is do not be stagnant in that you don't know. Find out. You know, most importantly, men, stop waiting on the wives and your woman and the child bearer to find out, and you step up and you find out what's going on and share that with your family so you guys can grow together. So that we're gonna get me going on and on and on, but that's where I found out, you know, Shane, and then we took him down to Chop. Shout out to Chop, um, and had him diagnosed, and it was probably one of the roughest experiences that I have had in my entire life. You know, but there's more to that story, but I know you got a series of questions, so we're gonna break it down.
But no, I think that's very important what you just said, that I feel both parents, you need to educate, like learn together and then share it with your family, because a lot of times, like just being having these IP meetings is mom after mom after mom. There were a few occasions where I had mom and dad come, whether
Mhm.
you're divorced, together, separated. I don't care. Both of you show up. If you got to join by phone, if you got to join by video, like come to the meetings, show up, learn together. But a lot of the times you do have mom learning. Mom is stressed out because she's the one who is learning the information. She's the one going to meetings, and then she's the one too managing the behaviors or managing just whatever the needs are of the kid. And it could, you could have them, and she may have, and they may have multiple children, and that's a lot to put on one person. Because
It is.
even at a school, it's not just one person. We're a team. It's a team of us at the school. Just like at home, I always would encourage parents: who is your village? Who is in your village? Because you're gonna need a break. People need breaks. You need to have someone that you trust who will, you know what, keep my child safe, and my child will be in an environment where they can be themselves.
Exactly. I mean, you touched on a lot of it, and I want to make sure men know the scope of their importance at these meetings. Give an example. Me and my son's mother separated. We divorced. I was out doing me, trying to dilute the pain, as they say, and I missed several IAP meetings. Listen, it comes down to, since we being 100, like, men, you need to stop. And you need to tighten up. You need to lock in, and you need to be there. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I went to an IAP meeting, the first IAP meeting that I attended after the divorce, and all of the providers that was there for my son, every single provider for my son asked me, "Who are you?" Now, I don't know if men out there are feeling comfortable with being asked who are they when it comes down to their child, but I'm not. But I was in that case back then. And it was the most embarrassing thing I have ever experienced in my life, for a person to sit there and say, "Hi, my name is Rich. Who are you?" And I have to sit there and say, "Oh, well, I'm Shane's father." I think, it comes to a certain maturity that both sides, mom and dad, if they're not together, need to understand that this is for the good of their child. And the representation of both mother and father speaks volumes to those service providers, so they cannot take advantage of your child in the IAP, which is a lot that we see going on today. Case point, mothers are taking on the load. These providers don't know what they're doing because they're not trained. I'm not going to start pointing out names, but that's a separate conversation. And
That's
they're
a whole
sitting,
other show. That's a whole other show, Jamil.
what they're doing is they're putting stuff in the IEP. Oh, we can't do that. Oh, we're not allowed to do that. Really? Really? And that's not true. But do you expect a woman, a mother who is having issues with with maintaining her household, with making time for her child, making time for herself, mental health, in order for her to really be 100%, in order to defend for your child as well? No. Don't expect that from her. You need to be there. Even if you need to start from ground zero like I did and ask questions, you have to be present. I'm able to talk this trash because I was the one that was in the seat. So I'm telling you, you need to be there. You won't catch me. You will not miss me at any of Shane's meetings to this day. If there is an issue that goes on with Shane, I get an email now. Why? Because I make sure my presence is known. And I don't do it in an ignorant manner. I just do it in a strong fatherly manner, saying, hey, this is my son. Me and his mom are not together, but we are co-parenting in the process of creating this child to be the best thing that humanity has seen in a while. And that's where you need to have your focus at. So men, step up. Stop. You can sit there and be on lives for concerts. You can sit there and be on lives to win some Jordans. I need you to be on lives, and I need you to be in person for your son. That is something that will never, never, ever, ever desert you, your child, son or daughter. Never.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. So how old was Shane when he was diagnosed?
He was 3 years old.
He was 3. Okay. So you talked about your initial feeling where it was like, okay, I needed to run from it because I didn't understand it. So now you know your son has autism. How has the diagnosis changed your life as just well as your family's life?
So the dynamic of autism, first off, we have to really look at the word. The word itself can be very scary. It is a enigma of so many different feelings, so many contemplations of the mind. You really don't understand exactly what you're dealing with. I think more so the fear of what if transposed to my family quickly, rather than saying, oh, okay, we got this.
Mhm.
Case in point, when me and his mother was after the appointment, right after it, talking in the car, it was complete silence.
Hmm.
Second part of that was anger. Third part was grief. Then fourth part, the most deadliest part, that finger.
Blame.
This is your
Blame.
fault. This is
Mhm.
your fault. This is your side of the family. I knew your cousin looked weird. Oh no, that's your mom. She got these signs. Listen, I'm being real because this is
That's facts.
that's
That's what happens.
like the stages of grief. There are about 5 to 7 stages of grief that everybody go to when losing a person. It also is within the autism community when finding out a diagnosis. And you need to stop that because you're not losing your child. You're far from that. What you are you're gaining something that you will never be able to recreate in this life again. So I want you to remember that phrase. You will never be able to create this beautiful life form again because they will show you so many things about yourself that you need to change, that you need to get down on your knees and thank whoever you praise or worship to for this blessing that you have been bestowed upon. You have to. But the initial thoughts were it was crazy because I felt like this wasn't my teammate. This is the reason why my son is like that, and quite honestly, vice versa. She thought that too, but at the same time, her grieving started immediately. As a man, my ego, my pride, just immediately threw up a wall. And my grieving didn't start like that. My grieving took years to actually start like that. And sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes I meet a lot of moms who didn't start grieving until now, and their son got diagnosed at age 3, and their son is 13, just like my son. And you have some dads that grieved immediately right away. So it is a very versatile thing. If you ask about today, where we're at as far as my family dynamic, it's amazing. And I say that because it's really because of me. So before I got married into this new marriage, I was out there advocating. I was out there understanding my son. I was out there understanding about my son and other individuals like him. I was really the voice, and I'm continuing to be a voice. So when my new wife came into the picture, she knew what I was about. She knew what I represented, and she knew that if she had any questions or dispositions about my son or what it will be as far as her responsibilities, she knew to bring them to me right now, because we're not going to play that, when we walk down the aisle. And
Right.
other people who were in my life romantically in relationships, they didn't ask these questions, and I feel as though sometimes that some of those things could have been addressed, and whatever may happen may happen. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. But the most important thing is I want to implore people, ask questions, please. If you're ladies, if a man has the courage to come up to you and say, hey, I just want to let you know one or both of my kids are on the spectrum, is that okay with you? If it's not okay with you, please be strong enough as a woman to back out. If it is okay with you, please ask those questions, be upfront, and vice versa. Men, if a woman comes out and say that, don't run scared. Don't use her, for whatever you want to do and then roll out. Ask those questions. If you feel as though this is too much, back out of it. But your dynamic is now going to be teaching and learning dynamic, which means you're going to teach those who come into your. You're also going to be learning the individuals that are coming in, because now you're learning what society does. You're going to see that person first interaction with your son maybe not go so well. That's what society does. So you're going to be able to learn from this as well as teach. It's the most amazing experience that you can actually be a part of.
Absolutely. And those are some great, great tips, and just being upfront and honest, because everybody, like, I used to hear it often when I was still teaching. It takes a special person to be a special education teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because you deal with so much every single day. And you have to really be honest with yourself. If you have a child that has exceptionalities, and you're dating, or you're, in a relationship, the person you're dating, they really have to be honest with themselves. Can you handle this? Because
Yes.
everybody can. And if you
Yeah.
can't, it is fine.
And
You
that's
got to
okay.
be honest. It's
Yeah.
okay. And
Yes.
that's okay. But to be honest about it.
It is.
So, okay. So you talked about how it has affected your family, changed you. Now, Shane was diagnosed when he was 3. You're getting ready for school. Gotta register him for school. You have to get services for him, making sure all the supports and everything are set up. How was that process for you, getting him registered for school, and making sure he had the proper support?
Okay. So I hope,
You like deep breath
yes,
before we go in.
I hope and pray that someone within every school system, but being that I was Philly raised, that the Philadelphia school district of Philadelphia, listens to this, listens to you, listens to a lot of different, parents in the autism community. Um, it was very, very aggravating
Mm,
to get him into a school. I feel as though at that time the Philadelphia school system sucked. I feel as though from the horror stories that I hear from a lot of parents that it still sucks. And
mm,
I feel that the school system does not take responsibility for their lack of education when it comes to our children and what their needs are. Once again, you, whoever you work, you that work for the Philadelphia School District, are lacking the responsibility to take on the educational needs of our children that is needed. Doesn't mean that you in person are horrible. I think everybody who's an educator are phenomenal people and fantastic people. It's just that your employer needs to train you. And we need that to be done because we are in fear to send our kids to a school system that is provided to us as citizens of this state. We
mm.
feel that. I was fearful dropping off my son his first day at Elwyn. We tried to get him into mainstream schools for pre-K. We were too scared. Then we tried Elwyn. Um, that was a scary situation. We're not going to go into that.
Okay.
Um, and then once again, then we failed. Um, at that time, Shane's mom said, "I'm tired of this blank. I'm out of here." And she moved to Delaware County with my son and got him into one of the best school districts around. And he is well rounded, well rounded. Why do we have to move out of our hometown, our neighborhoods, outside of Philly to get services for our children that are supposed to be provided for us by a school district that is in the inner city?
Mm-hmm.
No one seems to know the answer, but everyone is quick to say, "Oh, well, you know what? You want better services, you got to move outside the city."
It's sad.
Or woman should have to move. Now, don't get me wrong. Us as parents, we will do anything for our children, but
Mhm.
no man or woman should have to move out of their dwelling to sit there and try to get services in the county, which they know they can't afford because it's going to help their child when they have a school right around the corner with teachers who I know would love to learn and would love to be a provider for their child. So my experiences when I was living in Philadelphia was horrible. In
Mm.
Philadelphia, I hope to God that somebody gets this. I hope that they invite me down to talk to them and speak to them. You guys have to do better. I should not, as a parent, have felt scared down to the core. I would have listen. There's three things that I'm scared of: the IRS, two, and child support. Three things that I'm scared of. Being putting my child in school at that time was the most fearful thing out of all those three people. It overlapped all of them, and it should never be like that. It should never be like that.
So before I speak on that, does Shane require any support outside of school, like any type of therapy or anything? Or everything is in school?
Everything is in school, but his teachers out there, and these are just average people, and we're not going to sit there and play the race game and all they're this and all they're that. We're not going to go into that. It's just people who are trained and people who are cared, which I do know are these people are in the Philadelphia school system. They just need to be trained. He does not require anything else outside of school. He has a para that is with him,
Mm-hmm.
but his counselor says Shane doesn't even need that. Sometimes they check in with him in the morning, be like, "Hey, how do you feel today?" He'd be like, "I'm ready to go." And they'd be like, "Okay, if you think you need us, let us know." And he goes about his day in middle school with his lockers, with his teachers, with his schedule, without any problem.
That's
Without any problem.
that is that's great. And what you shared, it is I'm sad, it's sad to say, it's the truth. It really depends on where you live. Even like my little sister has, well, she's my little sister, but she's 30 now. So it's just a habit to keep saying, you know, I can remember like just my mom going all over Philly getting support for her. And then I would tell people like the Northeast has a lot of support. A lot of agencies are in the Northeast. But then also when it comes to the education, the Northeast has a huge sped population. It's a huge sped population. I used to teach in the Northeast when I was working in the Philly district. Huge sped population. So I could see the difference from me working in the Northeast compared to when I worked in South Philly, when I worked in Kensington, when I worked in Alney. You see the
Yep.
difference. Then I saw even bigger difference when I left Philly. I had taught in Philly as a sped teacher for I was in my 10th year, and I went to Montgomery County. I went
Yep.
to Springford School District. It's a shame the disparity of services from we're in the same state, we're still in Pennsylvania, But to go from Philadelphia County to Montgomery County, I used to tell people, if your child requires special education services, Delaware County is better than Philly. Montgomery County is better than both.
Yep.
And
But
and
why?
and, and then it's like also which county in Montgomery, not which county, which section of Montgomery County you're in as well.
Yep.
Like the disparity of services is crazy. When I went to Springford, it was, you had co-teaching, you had learning support classes, you had gen ed classes, you had gen ed with instructional assistants.
Yep.
Me being an emotional support teacher, I had an aide that followed my caseload.
Yep.
So I would check in with them, like exactly what you were saying. There were some kids who, yes, they need a serious check-in in the morning. And then there are some, Miss Bashir, I'm here, I did my homework, blah, 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 blah. Like, my students actually received individual counseling or group counseling, like actually got it. And that was just the whole time I was there, Jamiel. I'm like, I wish my boys back in Philly could get this. I wish the students I had, I wish I could take the services there and drop it all throughout Philadelphia, because remember my last couple years in Philly, there was a group of boys that needed group therapy, but we didn't have anybody. They didn't require an autistic support placement because they could thrive where they were, but they needed that socialization. And when you're in Philly, you're a special teacher, you're every single last thing. You are an autistic support teacher, you're an LS teacher, you're an ES teacher, you are all of it. And I was doing socialization I was on the internet all the time. And I would ask them, okay, what do you feel you got to work on? And they would tell me, okay, we need to work on making friends, like just all of that. And that's what we focused on. Philly has some great teachers, but they don't give the teachers what they need, the resources.
Yep.
I tell people, I use this all the time when I describe working in Philly. I don't say I was thrown in the ocean. I had to swim. You do feel like you're thrown in the woods, but I tell people, I said, I left because I got tired of having to create this picture, eliminate, and I don't have ingredients and I don't have the materials to make it. That's
Facts.
exactly what it is. And that's exactly what it was. So when I left, I'm like, oh my God, I have this nice cold pitcher of lemonade and it tastes so good because I have what I need. If I didn't have what I need, I knew where to go to get it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It was resources for the students. And it was just like, I wanted to cry like my first week there, because I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I could take this back for my kids in Philly. And that's exactly it, and it's the truth. It's so sad, the disparity of services.
It is. 45 minutes away. Why? Why? Why?
Yes.
Why? When there's a child that has a school that's right around the corner, that it could put the mom at ease or the father or the family at ease to send them
Right.
there. Just if they, the faculty and the staff have better training. It is not up to. We got to stop putting full responsibility on parents and have to share that responsibility for professionals. And I speak to
What they need, like stop making a sped teacher's caseload so huge they can't
yes,
really fully support the kid. And then don't just give us one counselor. Don't just give us one therapist, speech therapist, and it's all these kids that need speech and they can barely meet those mandates. Like,
exactly.
it's like, be for real.
Exactly. So we're faced with getting our children in a failing system. The system is not built for our children, and it's sad because it's not being reconstructed. If I'm not mistaken, there was a bill that was just passed for special needs that was up in the billions of dollars. Where is this money?
Where's that money at?
Where's the money at?
Mismanagement money as well.
I know disabilities span a little bit more than autism, but we need it. What programs are we being, accepted with, and what help are parents actually getting? The most discouraging thing is that I'm seeing a lot, as we know, the demographic of parents for anybody these days is changing. You have younger and younger parents, whole different show. We could talk about that. Fine. But when they're coming up to me and the simplest things that I know, once again, I don't judge them. I'm here to give them information. But when they sit there and be like, oh man, I didn't know that. Why aren't they not knowing this? Why aren't they? It's because we're not educating.
Yep, no one's taking the time.
We're not giving resources. Like you said, your analogy, we're not giving the ingredients so that maybe she had an interaction. This particular young lady had an interaction with the school already, but the teacher didn't know. So she don't know. So now it's a vicious cycle that keeps on going on. And to the point where who loses the most? Our children.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, it's very unfortunate that that's the case. And then you can get a first year teacher in, because it feels like everyone has to start somewhere, but it's like, give the teacher their support, the coaching that they need, and the time to really have their meetings. Don't rush. I remember I remember one of the secretaries was like, "Oh, Miss Bashir, the other teachers don't ask for an hour." I said, "Well, I always leave time so that parents can ask me questions." Because I always tell them, I said, "Please stop me if I talk too fast. If I say something you don't understand, please stop me." And I never forget, I had a parent. It was her. She was being raised by her grandparents, and they said, "Thank you so much for explaining everything. Nobody ever explained anything to us." Mind you, this is probably her third, her annual IP. This had to have been her third one. And I'm just like, what? No one explained this to you? And then it's like, it's not always, oh, that teacher don't care. It's I didn't have the time. And it's like, I gotta get this meeting because I got another one coming.
Exactly. Like I said, good people in the school system, they are just poorly trained. And it doesn't mean that they will not go hard for your child 100% every single day. It's just the fact they don't know where to start. Now, is that their responsibility to find out about it? Yes. But it's more so the employer to sit there and be like, hey, we got a mandatory training for those children with intellectual disabilities. It is mandatory that you be here and be ready to learn. That is the employer responsibility. Now, what is our responsibility as a parent is to sit there and be like, great, I would love to either be at that meeting if possible, or we need to sit down and we need to discuss the information that you have, because now a different dynamic. Every child on the spectrum is different. So I need to let you know what you learn, how that applies to my child, and what tips I can give you to better service my child in class so that can trickle over to the household and we can make this a unified effort to put our child up to his abilities. It has to happen like that.
Absolutely. So now we're going to take a shift and talk specifically about just some tips and advice we can give people in regards to the socialization, because individuals that have autism, they have socialization needs, and everybody's socialization needs are not the same. And not to misconstrue, oh, people with autism, none of them have filters, they don't have feelings, they just say whatever they want or whatever, which is not the case. They may not understand that what they said has hurt you, so you have to help them understand why saying those particular things will offend someone, for them to understand. Not that they don't care, they do care. So, Jamiel, how can adults teach children to engage with autistic children?
I think the biggest difference, again, is not being afraid to answer questions. It comes to a point in your life where there are plenty of things in life that you can get offended for. For yourself, educating others shouldn't be one of them. If a person is ignorant due to society about what a child on the spectrum looks like, and they make a comment where you're just like, wow, that was pretty bad. I'm not saying that you should chuckle it off. This is me personally. I laugh and I'll be like, let me talk to you for a minute about, what exactly you should be asking instead of saying this. But be willing to inform them, educate them, in the most polite way, because this not only speaks of your character, but also speaks of your child's character. And if your child is around during that, they are going to be able to see you interact with people and hopefully catch on to the abilities of explaining who they are as a person, not as an autistic, but who they are as a person and how to coincide with them. You have to be open, parents. You have to be an open book. You have to be willing to educate. Not everybody in the world knows about autism. Believe me, if it's not in front of you, it doesn't affect you. That's just how human nature is. But we have a responsibility to show empathy and compassion to others who may not know about our awesome children and what their superpowers are. And the scariest times is when people choose not to ask questions and form their own judgment. You still have a right to speak up for that child and children's just like your children, just children just like your child. So the biggest thing is educate, educate, educate. Do so in a loving manner, which will allow a person to walk away from your conversation and be like, wow, I was wrong and I learned something educational today that I can learn on or pass. You never know who you might inspire to actually pick up a book or to watch a show or to just research a little bit more about autism. That will be the biggest thing that I can say. I've been through it. You know, I've been through it where people have looked at my son and gawked at him or just say, "What's wrong with your kid?" Like, I've been through that, but I always told them, "Hi, my name is Jamiel. This is my son Shane, and he has autism. Let me explain to you what autism looks like. What it looks like, not in its physical form, but what it looks like characteristic wise. You know, so recognize this and other people in other countries, other skin tones, whatever the case may be. And that's how I've been doing this for so many years. So, you know, that's just me personally. Some people have a problem with doing that because they're still trying to process that their child's on the spectrum. I get it. When you get over that, which I need you to, then you start educating, because we can't have parents out here being ignorant and want to fight everybody because they feel as though they were disrespectful to their child. They might not be doing it on purpose.
Right.
So stop with that. You can tell malicious intent versus somebody who is uneducated about something. You can tell that. So that would be my biggest thing. That would be the only thing that I would tell parents.
Okay. So what is something that how have you over the years taught Shane how to socialize with other children?
So, funny story about this. I used to sit there and push Shane to say hi to people. I used to, you know, be like, "Hey, Shane, you know, go say hi, go give a hug, go give a handshake." Now, Shane has taught me, because I remember dropping him off at a dance and I was nervous. And I'm like, all right, I'm in the parking lot just in case. We're walking to these people and I'm like, "Hi, my name is Jamil. I'm Shane's dad." And Shane went into the auditorium and I was explaining to him, I'm like, you know, this is hard for me to, you know, articulate, because I want you to see my son as a kid and not for what he is experiencing. But he is on the autism spectrum. And I just want to make sure that he makes friends, if that makes sense. And the lady looked at me, she looked in the auditorium and she looked at me and I said, "Well, I think he won't have a problem. And I think you'll probably learn something about this." And she said, "Look." And I turned around and my son was already dancing with 3 or 4 girls. So, and I have the video still to this day. So don't push him.
Mhm.
You and your child need to be in your own world at first. And just like any great city, if you go back to the very beginning of time and existence, Rome, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, these cities started with one little hut, and then it multiplied to a building, then it multiplied to a coliseum, then it multiplied to a great stretch of a walkway. Your child's city is going to grow over time, but it starts with you and them. Once they get comfortable with that, they're going to start noticing other things in the world that brings them joy, that brings them interest, and they're going to want to include that into their world. Allow it to take time. That time. Once again, we tell people all the time, yo, take your time, be a child. Don't grow up too fast. The same thing has to apply to our awesome children. They are, in essence, the same way. You know, people say, "Oh, well, they're different," and things like this. No, they're absolutely the same way. They are like sponges. They absorb everything that are around them. So, just like a average child, just like a child that has no intellectual disabilities, you know, quote unquote, normal. Allow that time. Don't force anything. Be supportive of what they find interesting and explain it to them. Hey, you find this interesting? Let me tell you a little bit about this. You will be amazed at what transpires in their brain and in their thinking growing up.
Thank you. You just shared some do's, like things to definitely do. What are some things you definitely do not want to do? And this is some tips for people. Don't do this. And even
Don't
parents, as you're learning, this could be new. You may have a new diagnosis. Don't do these things. What are the don'ts?
don't isolate yourself or your child.
Mm,
That is the first and foremost thing. Isolating yourself and your child is not going to help their growth and understanding. It is not going to help your growth and your understanding as an advocate. You're an advocate now. You're a parent and you're an advocate of a special needs child. That's the first thing that I will say. Uh, the second thing is do not limit your child for what he or she can do. Um, there are going to be some obstacles in the way of life and education, but your child, how intricate their mind, their body works, will amaze you in what they actually can do that you have never thought that you can do personally yourself, but you were always hindered. You were always told, oh, no, you shouldn't do this. You should go more this way. Allow your child to blossom into the person that they will actually become and help them in that growth. I think that's the second thing that I would actually stress. Do not hinder their growth at
mm.
all. Do not hinder what they're looking at, what their interests are. Do not. The third thing I will tell you to do is do not accept BS from any provider, especially during the IEP meeting, whereas though they're saying that services cannot be. Do not accept that for speech, for talk purposes. If they tell you, oh, we can't do this or we don't do that, great. I would like for you to write this down in the IEP because at the end of it, this will be a signature based document that can be upheld in a court of law
Yep.
saying that you said you can't do this for me. So then when I pull your card and find that you've been lying, I'm going straight to my lawyer with this. Do
Absolutely.
not any BS from any provider saying that they cannot do this for your child. That is absolutely absurd. They can. Now the question is how fast they will actually get it done.
Facts on that.
Do that. The next question, the next do not. And I'm gonna end it on this one. Do not point the finger at each other. This is neither one. I'm speaking about the mother and father. This is neither party's fault. You have been given a blessing from God to change both of you. If not both, one of you. Somebody's going to change. There is no time to point fingers. Time to hold resentment in your heart means that there are less time for all of the most important things in your life to take refuge. Time is of the essence when it comes down to our awesome children. We need them to get diagnosed. We need the services to be in place. We need to get their diet in place. We need to understand what's going on as far as chemicals and things that are being placed in our food that can trigger them on a day-to-day basis. Why do you have enough time to hold resentment in your heart? You shouldn't. So what I need you to do is, once again, men, and I speak out to men once again, because you need to be the leader of the household. You need to be the spiritual guidance of your household. And sometimes I do understand. I was raised by a single mom. Sometimes that male figure isn't there. So mothers, I need you to be compassionate, not saying that you aren't, but being compassionate in the sense of a matter, to not blame the world. If you're single, don't blame the world. It's not the world. The world is not even on the level of happiness that you are about to experience with your awesome child. Don't look at it as a curse, look at it as a blessing, and continue to push on, because the 100,000,000% that you're about to go hard for your child, the world is about to see, and they're about to see the most extraordinary human being that has ever been birthed on this planet. And you get the privilege of saying, hey, that is my son, that is my daughter. So please do not point fingers. Do this together. Co-parent, write it down, talk voicemail. If you can't stand being around each other, do a Zoom, for Christ's sake. Do whatever you got to do, but be there together for the child. Me and my son's mother did it. It took some time. It took court dates, but now we are very cordial. I even speak to her boyfriend, shake his hand. I show love to him. That's the basis that I'm trying to be on. We're not getting any younger. We're getting older, and our children are getting older too. So grow up.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I will not delve into that IEP thing because that'll be a whole nother conversation. That is a whole different live. Oh my gosh. Okay, but last question. As a father and as a Black father, what are some things you really push for Shane to learn to do when it comes to interacting with others? Because he's a young Black man out in the world. No one's going to see, oh, he has autism or anything, nor will they care if he has autism. What is something as a father you're pushing on with Shane as he's interacting with people?
So I battle with this on a day-to-day basis. Of course, unless you've been living under a rock, you know what's going on in our society today, with racial tensions, interactions with police officers, whether spectrum, skin color, the case may be. Um, I am turning my spiritual guidance and really focusing on teaching my son, something that he's already been established with, and that's compassion. Keep that. Keep compassion, keep the empathy. Guard your heart, but keep that compassion and empathy to want to help others, to want to make someone else smile. We are losing that as humans in humanity today, and it is the essential thing that we are given on this planet. You see two children of different races and different colors, different nationalities, religious backgrounds, and they hug and they hold hands. But yet, as we grow older, we grow callous in the things that we learn or go through in society. So why are we teaching our children to walk away from that at an earlier age? Why? When we should be telling them to embrace this character for as long as possible, even into the adult. So I tell Shane, when there are people who are mean, I tell them, we don't know what type of day they had. We don't know what's going on in their life. All you can do is pray for them and just wish them well. I tell them the importance of going to church. For those who know, and this goes for any religious background, church starts here. You don't have to go to a building to be into a spiritual guidance. You can start here. If you know your particular spirituality and the commandments of that, you know that you are spiritually good here. Church is here in the home, so it starts here. But we like to fellowship with our fellow Christians and people of our faith. I teach them that going there is important. The reason being is that when you try to look for answers in a person that is not perfect, just like you're going in that vicious cycle of not understanding how you need to come out of this trial, this tribulation. But if you go to your spiritual guidance, your leader, is above everyone else, you can find the insight that is needed for you to continue to go on to life. So I teach them, that is the most important thing. Those two factors, nothing else, because I trust so much that he will be guided correctly by my faith and my belief that I won't need to actually step into the critical issues. I will guide him. Our favorite term, redirect. I will redirect them, but my spiritual guidance and his will guide him right and make sure that he stands out as a noble person in this era and also the era to come.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we finish this live, Jamiel, can you tell us more about the awesome show? What any events that you have going on, where people can follow you? I do have at the bottom of our screen where you can follow the awesome show, where you can follow me, the IEP coach. But Jamiel, I want you to take this time to tell everybody how awesome you are, where they can what you are doing, and also like when or do you go live, like how often, and just all the events that you're going to be doing.
So I don't go live enough. Unfortunately, I do apologize between working and I'm a volunteer firefighter also. So between that and I just finished school. So I got a lot of different things going on. I apologize, but I do have a website up. It's www.theawesomeshow, TheAusomeshow.com. And you can go onto my website. You can hear all my podcast episodes, look at some of my videos as well. We're going to be switching that up. So second thing is my first book, Life is a Puzzle. God Gave You a Cheat Sheet. It's a 15-day devotional for awesome fathers. So this was written in 1 week. I wrote this in 1 week. And this is a spiritual guidance book for fathers. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be Christian. You could be any spiritual following to read this book, because it gives you what I went through, a brief synopsis of some of the instances in my life and how I put that towards biblical scriptures. But it always ends in positivity and challenges you to be a man. What do you want to do now? What's your next steps? So this book is out on Amazon right now. It's called Life is a Puzzle. God Gave You a Cheat Sheet. So you go ahead, check that out. I appreciate you guys. The funds for that go into my new nonprofit, Awesomeness Incorporated, which you can find us on Instagram, both The Awesome Show and Awesomeness Incorporated, AUSOMENESSNC for Instagram. And what that is, currently right now being worked on, is a one-stop shop website for all your awesomeness needs. And it's going to be more to come. I don't want to speak too much on it about, but it is awesome. It's developed by me for parents, for blue-collar, everyday parents who are living this beautiful life of having an awesome child.
You said awesomeness, AUSOMENESSINC?
Yep, it's all together for Instagram. Yep. So that's for that. And then the Awesome Show for Instagram is Facebook as well, for both of them. And
I have it going across the screen. The Awesome Show, Awesomeness Inc.
Yep, there you go. Look at that. Woo, look at that technology right there. Look at all that right there.
Got it. As you was typing, I was like, let me put this out there. So it's no excuses. Like, how you spell that and what did you say? It's scrolling.
Appreciate it.
It's scrolling.
It has been a really, really blessed year for me, and I'm hoping that it is not only for me but for you. I followed my passion and my purpose, which was this, for so long. I just didn't know what it was. I always wanted to be a police officer. I became a corrections officer. Never thought about being a firefighter. And I wasn't a police officer. I never became a police officer, but I always had a passion to protect people. And I followed my passion and purpose because I was working a job that I was not happy. And I quit. I just put in my 2 weeks and said, yo, quitting. And for the 3 or so months that I wasn't working, all I did was every day I got up like I was doing a 9 to 5. Well, really, it was like a 7 to 5. And I was putting in work, reaching out to people, started up the nonprofit, writing books, writing articles, getting connections, being part of different community events. And this fulfills me more than anything that I have experienced before in my life. Why? Because I'm leaving something not only for my son, my family, but for you, for people to sit there and be like, yo, I really engage with this person. And now, me as a man, I'm going to stand up for my home and my community. And when I see that, and when I see other men actually say that to me, and other women too, be like, look, my husband changed. Thank you for talking to him, or he changed when seeing you. When I see that, that fulfills what I'm here on this planet to do before, I meet my maker. So hopefully you guys can follow me, join me in this walk, join me in this journey, support not myself, but also you, the IEP consultant, the amazing. And once again, this is something that we need.
Yes,
Um,
yes, it's a dire need. Like our community needs it. Like you said, men need to hear this. I hope that it softens the hearts of many people. Men to just, if they have disconnected with their family or disconnected with their child, that they just reconnect and support the best way possible. And like you said, you may not be friends, you may not be together, but come together to support your child because that's your child too.
yep.
You know. So yes.
That's your child. You look like you. We ain't calling Maury or none of that. He look just like you. That's your kid. So let's step up. Let's take care of our kids. Let's raise this village. And remember, autism community, we live in this world. We are in a bubble. And there are so many things going on in this world, and we have to pay attention. But we need to keep the fort up, not to allow this negativity inside of our bubble. We can be aware of it. We can share our love, our kindness, our empathy to the world, but we are not tolerating what the world is dishing out to come into our communities. So, men, I need you to step up, tighten up, and lock in, and get it going. I can't be doing this by myself. I need help. And there's a lot of fathers out there that are doing it, but I need more help.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamiel. So make sure you guys follow the awesome show. It's going across the screen. Make sure you follow
This way, follow both of us. Both of us follow us, not just me.
follow
Follow,
me, the
yeah.
IAP Coach LLC. Make sure you follow the awesome show and follow Awesomeness Inc. on Instagram. And I will see. Oh, also, please, if you have questions, leave it in the comments. You can tag um, the awesome show. You can tag me and and I'll make sure we'll respond to you. But definitely, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. Thank you all again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.
Everybody stay blessed. Peace.